I'm actually really hyped about tonight's topic because it's something that I struggled with a lot, but now I feel like I've made a lot of headway with, and I guess I'm proud of that, but also just excited about it. Um, so I'm excited to talk about exercise, which is a sentence that I really never thought that I would say in my life. I probably don't have to reiterate this, but in case you're new, I'm the kind of person who would like sit on the sidelines for every single game in gym. I still have flashbacks of some of the games that we would play, especially dodgeball, wall ball, because that tennis ball was going way too fast. Um, Baseball, because I was always scared I was going to strike out, even though I was actually really good at hitting the ball when I didn't have the yips. Hey, Dr. Bonham. And this other game that we used to play where they would put us on like a square scooter with four wheels, and you'd have to like skate on your stomach across the gymnasium. I'm not a fan of any of that. Also, I didn't say hi, welcome, thank you guys for coming. Glad you're all here. I went straight into my tragedy. Okay. So yeah, I never in my life thought that I'd ever be about to say the things that I'm about to say to you guys, so I hope it doesn't sound too crazy. I would definitely be skeptical of me if I were not me, because I hated exercise so much, and I still kind of do, but I've learned to love it for particular reasons, I guess. That sucks. I played a lot of basketball. I was actually on basketball team pretty much my whole life, but I wasn't that good. And I would just get nervous. Like, my anxiety ruined a lot of that stuff for me. Ugh, ultimate frisbee would be pretty fun. Christopheles. I mean, that's pretty dope, though. You probably were like the shit that day, slash week, slash year. So we all kind of know the gym struggles and horrors. Maybe there's one or two of you out there who's being quiet who rocked at gym, and good for you. But for most of us, I feel like it was not a fun thing, myself especially. On top of, like, even before I gained weight, I'm just not very coordinated. I'm pretty damn clumsy, and I can trip over myself. But exercise, ironically, has gotten me a lot better at being coordinated. So what I wanted to start off with was talking about, well, just, of course, we start, like usual, with some definitions. There are three sort of like terms that we all kind of use interchangeably, but are actually different from one another. God, I hope I don't yawn a lot tonight. I had a panic attack when I was at the grocery store, so I'm like more tired than usual. Okay. So the first one is physical activity. The second one is exercise, and the third one is physical fitness. A lot of the times, I myself will just interchangeably use whatever comes out of my mouth at that moment, but in reality, they're all actually separate things. And this doesn't make a huge difference, but I do think that the more you learn about exercise and fitness, the less intimidating it becomes. And it's also just easier to understand what people are talking about. So first one is physical activity. I'm getting these definitions from a government like free document. If you just like Google what these definitions are, you'll find exactly what I'm talking about. So they say that physical activity is any bodily movement produced by skeletal muscles that results in energy expenditure. So essentially anything you do that like you use your muscles for and expends energy, because technically doing this is expending energy, is physical activity. And this can be further broken down into like occupational, sports, leisure, and then just like other activities. There's also like conditioning, and then on the other hand of that, there's also like doing chores around the house. Like vacuuming burns like 150 calories or something like that, which is crazy, but it does. Okay, So one thing about this is that it's a continuous variable and it ranges from high to low. So when I'm sitting here at my computer all day editing stuff, I might be shaking my leg or moving my feet and I'm typing, but that's not really like muscle using very much. Sitting up, straight every once in a while to try not to have a hunchback when I'm older. That kind of stuff are technically physical activity, but I'm not really doing a whole lot. I'm not going to really be burning many calories by doing any of those things. So there is a difference between physical activity and exercise, clearly. The amount of muscle mass that you're using to produce the movements, of course, is going to affect how many calories you burn. And I do want to make a little disclaimer that this isn't going to be about weight loss. This is about exercise. And I firmly believe that if you focus on the weight loss aspect of it, it makes exercise a terrible chore that of course no one would want to be really a part of, or it's going to lead back to some of the stuff that we talked about in our previous streams, the wellness ones, about disordered eating and having a poor body image. So we're not making this about weight loss, but there is inherently caloric burn and potentially weight loss or management that comes along with this stuff. So I am going to include that because it's fact. The intensity, the duration, and the frequency of your muscular contractions will also pay into how many calories you might burn from any sort of movement that you do. And this is a natural part, hey Sig, of sustaining life. So you need physical activity to be a functioning human being. The next definition, I guess, is exercise, which is a subset of physical activity. And exercise is different though because it's planned, it's measured, it's repetitive, it's something that you set out to do, whereas physical activity doesn't necessarily have to be. Technically, we burn calories and we do muscle contractions while we're sleeping. So obviously they're not exactly the same thing. There's always an objective when you're doing exercise, and there's not necessarily an objective when you're doing physical activity. This also is on a scale though as well, from high to low. You can be performing easy exercise, moderate exercise, or intense exercise is usually how they might say beginner sometimes instead of easy or something like that. So that concept though, exercise, the definition of that is what we are actually talking about for most of this discussion. Crap. Okay, sorry. I don't know why this happens. I'm fine all day. I think it's honestly because I get really relaxed when I'm talking to you guys and just sitting here and this light is basking on me. I'm just like an iguana or something trying to fall asleep. Okay. So lastly is physical fitness, and a lot of you might remember this term. I know I do from those dreaded gym class things. I don't know what you guys have in other countries, but in America, we have this, what was it called? The presidential fitness assessment or something like that. And essentially, they put you in front of all your other freaking classmates, and you have to show how much you can do of a certain exercise. So, hey Wolf. So sometimes you'll have to do sit-ups or push-ups or jumping jacks or try to climb a rope, stuff like that. Yeah, and it's kind of torture for people who don't enjoy exercise and aren't that great at it. But it is meant to sort of provide an overall assessment of our country's youth to see how physically fit they are. So physical fitness is defined as a set of attributes that are either health or skill related. They can be measured with tests like that one, and this has been defined as the ability to carry out daily tasks with vigor and alertness without undue fatigue, and with ample energy to enjoy leisure time pursuits and to meet unforeseen emergencies. So, of course, these things, when you say it that way, they're not really easily measured. How would I know if the way that I tackle an unforeseen emergency in my life is as vigorous as you do? I wouldn't. Like, I can't get inside of your mind, body, heart, lungs, whatever, so I only know how I feel in those situations. So instead of dealing with those things, they've kind of put them into measurable terms that have to do with your health or your athleticism. Yeah, I feel like I do the same thing too, Dr. Bonham. I've been so burnt out lately with this editing, but hanging in there. So the measurable health-related things are kind of what feeds into why we exercise, or like kind of goals of exercising. And these are, number one, your cardiorespiratory endurance. Just a big fancy word for how well you breathe and how well your heart is functioning. So if you have, we've all heard of the term cardio. This is the kind of exercise we'll talk about in a second that gets your heart going and gets your breath rate up. So whenever you're sucking wind and you feel like your heart's exploding inside of your chest, you're doing cardio. Good way to tell. So your cardiorespiratory endurance goes up, and this is something that you can measure against yourself, but it can also be measured in how far can you run, how fast can you do it, that kind of stuff. Next is your muscular endurance. Jesus. I swear I don't understand this. I haven't yawned all day. Okay. Your muscular endurance is how well you can use your muscles, essentially. How much can you lift? How long can you lift it? How many repetitions can you do? And that, of course, is also easily measurable. If I can do 15 reps of a 12-pound weight and the person next to me can't, then I would have better muscular endurance than they do. Very, very measurable. Yeah, I need to just... Okay. Next is your muscular strength. So I kind of said that wrong. Strength would be a look at how much weight. Endurance would be how many times. So I can technically have the same muscular strength as someone else and different muscular endurance. So let's say I can do 15 reps of 15 pounds, and then the person next to me can only do 5 reps of 15 pounds. We technically have the same strength. We can like lift the same weight, but my endurance would be better because I can do more repetitions of the same weight. And then there's your body composition, which I don't really feel like I need to explain that very much. It's just how much fat do you have versus how much muscle versus bone versus water versus whatever else. Everything that makes you you is your body composition physically. And then finally there is flexibility, which I think is the most underrated of these health-related things. I feel like a lot of meatheads out there, gym rats, people who get really, really focused on their ability to do one thing, and it doesn't just have to be weightlifting. It can be people who run, it can be people who play a certain sport. I'll always remember this like commercial that came out a long time ago that had these NFL players take a ballet class, and I don't remember what the hell the commercial was for, but it was very interesting watching them trying to do these moves, because you think of them as very athletic, and yet when they try to stand on one foot and balance the other one behind them, they have a very difficult time, some of them. So there are definitely different forms of being physically fit, and those are like kind of the options. The health related options are all of the things that I just said. You can have a strong heart and lungs. You can be physically strong with how much weight you can pick up. You can have high endurance with how many repetitions you can do. You can have a great body composition. Maybe you have very, very little fat on your body. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're flexible. All of these things are different, and therefore, when you exercise, you want to target all the different things. Getting focused on just one type of exercise or one type of fitness is fine. It's not beneficial, it's good. But at the same time, if you're looking to have like a well-rounded body, you really do want to hit all of them. And the thing that I think people underestimate is the fact that they complement each other. Our bodies are, not to sound super like lame, but our bodies are very, I mean, they're magical. They do, like, I've hated myself so much, but when you really think about all that the body can do, it's crazy. Like, we have so many different processes happening all at the same time. The fact that I can even like speak these words, and I'm moving my hands, and I'm breathing, and I'm blinking, and I'm doing all these things at the same time without even thinking about it is really crazy. And I think part of the great thing about exercise is that it helps you form an appreciation for what your body can do. And when you look at it that way, and you're targeting all of the health-related categories, it's just a really cool thing. It becomes less of like an activity or a chore or something that you're embarrassed to do, and more of like, wow, I wonder what I can do next. And it's kind of more of, it reminds me a lot more of how I was, at least when I was a kid. And yeah, I bet too. I'm not a roboticist. I can't do anything with robots, but I can imagine how difficult it would be. I've seen code, I don't understand it, but even in like a computer or something, there's just a lot that goes into anything, and our bodies are no exception to that. So yeah, I just think that it kind of pulls you back to a more childlike sense of wonder. And I know that when I was a kid, I had zero fear of like pretty much anything. I would jump from rock to rock. I would pick up a bug. I would do whatever came my way because I didn't know any better not to be scared or concerned in any way. And I feel like exercise kind of brings that back in a sense. It makes you a lot more fearless. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. So one thing too to note is that muscular endurance is specific to certain groups of muscles. If I only work out my arms and I get really big endurance in my arms, that doesn't mean that I have endurance in general. That doesn't mean I can run far. It doesn't mean I can do a lot of squats. Muscular endurance is located to the muscles, or it's isolated to the muscles that you train that way. And the same thing is true of flexibility. It's joint specific. So I happen to be very flexible for whatever reason, and that's something that I enjoy doing. Sometimes I'll be following along with a workout and they'll be like, oh, this is so hard to balance. And I'm like, not really. And it makes me kind of feel good that I'm like, oh, okay, this instructor is way more physically fit than me, but I'm more flexible. Like, it feels cool to have something that you're good at, no matter what it is. And my point that I don't think I finished making a second ago was just that all of these things work together to make us wholly, healthy, and fit. It's not just one thing. So anyone who you look at and you're like, wow, they have a great body, or they have such big biceps, or they have, a flat stomach, or huge quads, or whatever, that doesn't necessarily make them like the healthiest, most fit person. That means that they've trained one thing. You would have to test them in a bunch of different ways to know if they were good at other things. So, another offshoot of getting a well-rounded fitness is that it impacts your balance, your coordination, and your agility. And these, like I'm saying, are all things that will affect other things that you're doing. So if I'm a runner and I never work on my agility, my takeoff is always going to be slower than the people I'm competing against. If I do agility exercises, which seem completely unrelated, it's going to help me when I'm running. And that pertains for everything. Your ability to balance well, your sense of coordination, and your flexibility as well. These are all things that contribute to your ability to be athletic in general. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the different kinds of exercise. There are two major kinds that any exercise can kind of fall into. The first one is called aerobic exercise, and this might make you like flashback to thinking about like Olivia Newton-John or, you know, Jane Fonda, like some kind of workout tapes. You think about jazzercise in like the 80s, they were all about like aerobics. Or you might have had a class in college that was called aerobics. Essentially, the aerobic exercise is supposed to be cardio. It's something that's good for your heart. It gets your breathing elevated, and it is notorious for making you sweat and helping you lose weight. People who participate in cardio things often have a lot easier time of managing their weight. They also have really good endurance when it comes to doing everyday things like walking, running, swimming, bicycling, whatever. And those are some of the things that count as aerobic exercises, along with like Zumba, any kind of like cardio dance. Cross-country skiing is something that also includes. The main thing about aerobic exercise is that it's happening over time. So this isn't like a short burst proving you can like lift 300 pounds. This is something that you're doing for an extended period of time that is keeping your heart rate elevated and keeping you breathing heavy. The other important part about aerobic exercise is that it uses oxygen as a fuel source. And this was very interesting to me. Maybe it sounds super basic to you guys, but I remember I was in the middle of a workout and the trainer who I follow online was like, you have to breathe, you know, you taking that breath in is what's burning our calories. And I was like, what is she talking about? Like, how does oxygen burn calories? How am I going to lose weight because I'm breathing? But really, when you're doing aerobic exercises, the oxygen that you're breathing in is what is fueling your body's ability to do what you're doing. So it really is the fuel for your muscles in that situation. It's the fuel for your everything that you're doing in those moments. So that's why it's important. And you might actually hear a lot of times when people are running or biking or doing something that's difficult, they'll be breathing very heavy, like they have a very intense out breath a lot of the times, and it's audible from far away. I know I do this when I'm biking around my neighborhood. People probably think I'm fucking nuts, but if I'm going up a hill or something like that, like I know that every time I'm breathing out, it's audible. And that's something that you just kind of get more comfortable with as you go along. At first, it kind of seems uncomfortable and silly and like you're making a spectacle of yourself. But anyone who exercises knows that that's pretty normal. It's very normal. So it's something that you just kind of get used to. And this is a good way also to help you build endurance. So the more that you do aerobic exercises, the more endurance that you're going to have, which is a great thing for a lot of reasons. Some of the benefits of doing aerobic exercise include reduced blood pressure, as we said, increased capacity for your lungs, and your heart becomes a lot healthier, so it reduces your risk for heart disease and heart attack. It can also decrease your risk of having something like type 2 diabetes, because exercising is really like a freaking cure-all for so many things, but it helps maintain the body's systems the way that they're supposed to be. So even if you're not eating that great, doing aerobic exercise often can actually stave off a lot of these problems, including diabetes. It will increase your stamina and reduce your fatigue over time as well. And there's actually a lot of research that shows very, very definitively that doing aerobic exercise can actually and does actually reduce your risk of getting a lot of different types of cancer. So obviously it's super important if you care about yourself at all. I feel like a lot of us, myself included, kind of don't have a very tangible grasp on the future. Like when I think about getting old, actually it's something I really never thought was going to happen for me. When I was a kid, I used to always tell my parents that I was going to die before I was 30. And I don't know why I felt like that. I just always did. I've got like 6 more months to go, so we'll see what happens. Maybe COVID will take me out, but that was always like my thing, was like, I'm not going to get old. And it's not because I was scared of it. I couldn't grasp the idea of being old for me. So I've since I don't really think that way anymore. I just don't think about it at all. And when I do think about it, I just think, oh yeah, I'll get older. But even now, I've gotten older. I've got like wrinkles around my eyes and like in my face and things that I didn't have before. But it happens so gradually that you don't really realize it. And the same thing can happen with your whole body. Oh, Jesus. You can put on weight or have your body composition change, and it can happen so slowly that you don't really realize that it's happening. And then you just kind of accept it when it ends up that way. Hey, sorry you had a power outage. And yeah, I kind of feel the same way now, Dr. Bonham. It's like, oh shit, I'm 29, I better start taking care of myself. And really, it's never too late to get started, but at the same time, if you do wait forever, you never try to become physically fit, there are serious consequences to it. And my thought now is, if I'm gonna get old, I can't really predict whether or not that's gonna happen. But if it does happen, I want to be mobile. I don't want someone else wiping my ass. I don't want to be hunched over at an L shape to where I have to look up at people like this. I don't want to be disgusting. As you guys all know, and I've repeated a million times, I used to work with old people. And I did it for a really long time. And I freaking loved them, all of them. There was maybe 1 or 2 people who were an asshole. But aside from that, they were all like another set of grandparents to me. Actually, they were like grandparents that I never had because I wasn't really close with my own grandparents. These people were fantastic and lovely, and I hated it when one of them would get sick or pass away or whatever would happen. But there was such a clear difference between the people who exercised and the people who didn't. There was one woman, Miss Overton, who all she would do was walk. She was really small, like 5 foot, and she would just walk around the building like twice a day, a few laps. That was really all she did for physical fitness. And she was leagues better. And I mean, she didn't need any support to walk. She was always sitting up straight. She had very sharp mind. She was old, but she didn't seem that old. She didn't seem as old as her age. Every single person who looked youthful or had more bounce in their step or didn't have as many disfigurements or problems hearing, seeing, understanding, everything was tied to how well they had taken care of themselves in their earlier years and how well they continued to take care of themselves. I watched a few elderly people as well who had taken care of themselves, and then maybe their spouse would pass away or something horrific would happen in their life and they would stop taking care of themselves, and that changed them dramatically in a short period of time. So the reason why I say all that is because I have seen what happens. I've seen how you can get old in hundreds of different ways across hundreds of different people. And I don't want to be in the group who is having so many problems, having to really, really watch every single carb that they eat because they're heavily diabetic and they could die if they have, too many carbs that day. Or someone who soils themselves every single time they're at dinner because they can't help it. Or someone who literally can't sit up straight. Like, I don't want to be that. If I'm going to be alive, I want to be still feeling like a capable human being. Yeah, that's exactly what scares me too, I guess, is like, I feel like as long as I don't drown, that's the one way I don't want to die that I'm actually scared of. As long as I don't drown, I'm not really nervous about getting old. I, like you, just don't want to be weak and incapable of taking care of myself. That really scares me. So becoming active like that in itself is a good reason to add just even a little bit of physical activity to your daily life. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to be on the track team. You don't have to, be able to lift 50 pounds. It's not that intense. You just have to do something. And that something really makes a tremendous difference. So another major thing is the improved immune system. And this is something, again, that I have firsthand experience with. I've been pretty much sick my whole life. I try not to talk about it a lot. I mean, I talk about emotional stuff here because it's pertinent, but in terms of my physical health, I wasn't born a healthy baby. I was born and wasn't crying, just kind of popped out, quiet, and within a day of leaving the hospital, I was back in the hospital because I was really sick and I couldn't process any food. And then as I was growing, I had really bad skin conditions and just a host of problems. It was like problem after problem after problem. And growing up, every single thing that came my way, I got sick. If something was going around school, I caught it. I was always getting sick, much to my parents' dismay. And since I have been exercising regularly, the amount that I get sick or just have days where I feel like shit has gone down so much. Like, I would have never expected that to be a result, because when you're in that low, you feel like, oh, I'm never going to get out of this. It feels like a cycle that just never ends, and you don't feel good enough to exercise, so why would you do it? You don't have the energy, you're sick. But in reality, the healthier that you make your physical body, the better it's able to ward off anything that comes your way. And I hate to use this as an example. I guess I won't. I'll use the flu instead. The people who are more physically fit, when they catch something like the flu, they have much more reduced symptoms. They might be asymptomatic to a point. They might just have a fever. Their body is capable of fighting things off. And I have no doubt in my mind that this is the same reason why exercise also helps prevent cancers. Your body is in its peak performance. It's performing where it should be, where it's meant to be. We are meant to be active beings, and we're built for that. So even if it seems kind of impossible to get started, once you do, it changes a lot about your day-to-day life. I feel so much better exercising than I did when I didn't, by an insane amount. You also just have a stronger heart, you have a better mood, and of course you live longer. So those are just some of the positive effects of aerobic exercise. One thing that I will say is that if you're starting from a point of being overweight, with any kind of exercise, it's a really good idea to go slow. And if you have a chronic condition or something like that, you do want to kind of consult an actual professional doctor to make sure that however you're getting yourself onto an exercise program is safe for you. I'm not saying that everyone starts at the same place. I think the majority of the average people could start by walking and it wouldn't be a big deal. But if you want to increase and you haven't been active for a long time, or if you do have a chronic condition or you're very overweight, then these are things that you want to make sure that you're handling adequately for what your body is capable of. On the other hand, even if you don't think that you're that out of shape or you're that incapable or whatever, there's so much to be said for going slow. I've been exercising now, consistently. I've really only been doing it since probably December, but this is like my 800th time being consistent. I actually first started exercising ever in like 2013 or 14. That person who I was dating in Virginia told me that I had let myself go, which was ridiculous because he was the one that gained like 35 pounds. But anyway, he said that and it really hit me hard and I felt really bad about myself. And I was like, man, like, have I let myself go? Is there something wrong with me? So I decided, okay, this is enough. I'm tired of feeling overweight and bad about myself. I'm going to get into shape. So we had a little gym situation at our apartment complex, and every single day that I could, and definitely every Saturday and Sunday, I woke up early, I walked to the gym, I got on the treadmill, and I would run, and just run and run and run, and listen to music. And then when they renovated the gym, because it was so bad before, and they added a lot of equipment, so I was able to then like lift weights. And I was in college and I took a weightlifting class there. So I was doing, usually it ended up I was running on Saturdays and Sundays. I would go about 4.5 miles, and then I would lift weights on like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at school. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays I would just like take a walk or something like that, nothing too crazy. So it was just a little bit every day. Saturday and Sunday were definitely my heavy days when I was running, because running 4 miles is no freaking joke, and I had to work up to that over time. But it really transformed my whole body. But at the same time, like, I ended up with a couple kind of injuries that I wish that I hadn't, because I tried to go really fast. Hello. I wanted to see results fast. I wanted to be different. I wanted my body to change. The truth is, though, that I had never done anything ever really to become physically fit. So when you're starting off like that, you think that you can do anything, and you think that like, oh, well, I'm just going to push myself really, really hard and I'm going to get the results that I want. But it doesn't actually work that way, and that's something that I wish that I had known earlier, so that I had saved my body from some of the injuries that I have now. But even doing something like planking, which is just holding yourself up on the floor, is something that you kind of have to work up to. We don't all just like naturally have the strength to do that. And a lot of the times when I was following along with fitness videos, or when I was pushing myself to run, I would make my body do more than it was really capable of. Hello. Being gradual, though, with what you are doing is extremely important. So if you're really looking to do something good for your long-term health, my first piece of advice is to take it very, very slow. Don't start off by trying to run or trying to do some crazy workout video. Start off slow. Start off with walking or swimming or taking a leisurely bike ride or doing a workout video that's only like 10 minutes long. If you try to do more than that, you are going to hurt yourself, and you're probably also not going to stick with your grand plan. So The next form of exercise is called anaerobic exercise. So we have the aerobic, now we have anaerobic. Anaerobic exercise is the opposite, where you're doing something very fast. So it doesn't last a long period of time, but it's like a huge energy output quickly. So these can be repetitive though. So you might do something like a HIIT workout, which is high intensity interval training. They suck. They're really hard, but you're doing short bursts of a lot of energy over and over and over again. And this works your body and your muscles much differently than aerobic exercise does. Anything that has to do with like jumping, sprinting, lifting really heavy weights, that kind of thing, that's all anaerobic exercise. So if you remember when we were doing aerobic exercise, I said that your oxygen is your fuel source. When you're doing anaerobic exercises, your body has to rely on stored energy to create the fuel for what you're doing. So instead of it being about your breath, even though that's still important, it's actually about breaking down glycogen in your body. So essentially like stored fat is what's being used to make these movements, give them energy. So it's really good to have a mixture, of course, of aerobic and anaerobic exercises if you're looking to tone your body, if you're looking to lose weight or manage your weight, and of course just for your overall health, it's a good idea. Some people think that lifting weights is just going to make them bulky, and for those of you guys out there, which I think is most of you, I mean, eventually, yeah, you're going to add bulk. It may not happen right away, or it might. Genetics do play a factor in how your body transforms when you start to work out. Some people are just genetically predisposed to be able to put on muscle or to lose weight faster than others, and that's just the luck of the draw. It varies between people. I don't have a very easy time losing weight, but I feel like I can kind of put on muscle maybe faster than most females who are weightlifting. Weightlifting, though, is a really great way to help burn fat for two reasons. Number one, of course, it's using stored fat in order for you to do your repetitions. Number two, your muscles burn calories essentially on their own. So if I'm just sitting here all day long, if I have no muscle mass, I'm probably not burning that many calories. But if I have a lot of muscles, they need fuel and energy. So they're going to be burning calories when I'm just sitting here doing nothing. So the more muscle mass you have, the more your metabolism is going to rock and the more calories you're going to burn even when you're not doing anything. So lifting weights is a huge benefit, whether you're male, female, whether you're looking to lose weight or not. It's a really good thing for your physical fitness. I don't understand why more people don't do it because it's also really fun. Pretty much you just put in music, you do your freaking reps, and then you stand there for a little while and like chill. It's really not nearly as difficult as running or biking or doing anything aerobic. It's a lot. It doesn't really feel like you are doing as much, but then in the end it has just as big of a result. Okay, someone get me a pillow, Jesus. Okay, so if you want to lose weight quickly, anaerobic exercises are actually like incredibly key to that, and I feel like most people don't know that. Thank you. I'm like ready to sleep, except that I'm not. I don't know why I'm yawning. Okay. Some of the benefits, aside from building muscle and losing weight, because you're burning fat, are that you can beat a plateau. So if you've been exercising for a while and you want to cut a couple minutes off of your time running, or you want to lose a couple more pounds of fat, or you want to, I don't know, whatever, as I mentioned way earlier, you know, our bodies work in concert with one another. So if you spend some time improving your anaerobic abilities, it will improve your aerobic abilities and your capability. Um, so if you hit a plateau, if you spend some time focusing on like the opposite category, you can push through that a lot easier. You can also maintain your muscle mass, which is important. We'll talk about that in a second, and strengthen your bones. And you also have, please let me on, more stamina for your daily activities. So if you feel like you have kids or a dog that you can't really keep up with, you can't run around with them, or if your friends like to go hiking and you're like, I can't really go as far as they can, or maybe you just want to increase how far you're walking around your neighborhood. That's totally fine too. Doing anaerobic exercises, weightlifting, jumping, sprinting, hit intervals, whatever, are going to help you in those areas tremendously. Overall, though, you do want to start with aerobic exercises when you're first starting out and add the anaerobic ones later when you are more physically fit. And yeah, that's totally true. You definitely don't want to just like walk into the gym one day and be like, I'm going to lift weights. Like, there's a lot of great resources online that will help you learn form and technique. And like what I did was just, I researched, this is going to sound really dumb, but whatever, I had to do what I had to do. I went onto the internet and researched just like 5 exercises that I wanted to do. I think I did like chest press, calf raises maybe, chest fly, something like that. I don't know, I just picked that, and a tricep pull down, something like that. I had just a bunch of random ones. I did a couple for my arms and a couple for my legs and maybe one for my abs, and I was like, okay, these are the 5 exercises I'm going to do. I watched videos and I read about how to actually perform those things. And then when I went to my weightlifting class that week, those were the 5 exercises that I would do. And I just sort of added from there, but always trying to make sure that I had good form. And I also had a teacher at my disposal. He really didn't give a shit, but I could have asked him or the gym's trainer to help me make sure that I was doing something correctly. A lot of times, too, the people at the gym, like the good ones anyway, want you to succeed. Like, some of the nicest people I've met at gyms are like these big buff bros who you think just like look down on you and want to spit in your face because you have fat on your body. They are super supportive 9 times out of 10 and really want you to succeed and better yourself, and they're almost always willing to spot you or to help you with your form, or to like say to you like, hey, you know, you really should be doing this instead of that. So it's common to like ask people as well, just to be like, hey, can you make sure I'm doing this right? And there's also a reason why gyms are usually lined with mirrors. It's very helpful for you to be able to see what you're doing to make sure that you're not using bad form. And yeah, gym staff, good point. Gym staff will definitely help you. Classes and trainers will also help you for sure. And yeah, you said what I was just saying. Sorry, I didn't see you say that. But asking someone at the gym is super easy, and just like you're saying, and I was repeating, is that they're really friendly, most of them. It's very intimidating to walk up to someone you don't know and like ask them something, but they really are much more accepting and supportive than I ever would have guessed, ever. So start slow. When you do get into the weightlifting and the anaerobic exercises that aren't so intuitive, because a lot of the times doing aerobic things are pretty intuitive. Like, we all know how to walk. Running, you might want to look into a little bit so you don't hurt your knees or whatever, but you know, most of us can paddle through water or ride a bike, something like that. When you get into the anaerobic stuff, that's when you want to make sure that you're not hurting yourself. And as I was mentioning earlier, like going really slow is important too. One thing that I've noticed as I've been working out, I do a lot of the same videos or from the same people, right? I use this website called Pop Sugar Fitness. They have videos on YouTube as well. Pop Sugar Fitness that are completely free. Truthfully, they're a little female centered, but number one, you get to look at great bods. Number two, these exercises are actually really fucking hard. Like, they're not doing pussy shit, and it's intense. 9 times out of 10, they do have some videos that are much more like beginner level, but a lot of them, it's hard stuff, and like you're really like dying by the end of it. And it's only as I've been doing these videos for the last however many months that I can now tell when I'm starting to do an exercise correctly, which is really bad. I should be modifying and working up to it. And for some things I had to, like doing push-ups. When I started, I couldn't do a single push-up, like from my toes. I could do ones from my knees all day, but doing them from my toes was not an option for me. Now I can do like probably 15 to 20 push-ups on my toes, with good form, like proper form, and it feels a lot different than when you're doing it wrong. And the same thing is true of like any kind of exercise, ab exercises especially. Sometimes I'm like, man, this is so easy, right? And then I realized like a month later that I was not doing it right at all. That's the reason why it was easy. So if anything ever does seem pretty easy and they're like, oh man, I feel this burn, you're not doing it right probably, which is fine, but it's a good idea, again, to go slow so that you can actually figure out how you're supposed to be using your body in each move, no matter what you're doing. So the next thing that I wanted to mention to back up some of the reason why I'm saying that all this is important. In 2017 and 2018, I couldn't find data for 2019 yet, but the leading causes of death in America, according to the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the top leading cause was heart disease. 647,000 people, almost 648,000 people, died due to heart disease. The next thing below that was cancer at 599,108 people. Right below that is accidents, unintentional accidents. Okay, so that's just shitty luck, right? But the two top things, and then the one that's fourth, which is chronic lower respiratory diseases, that was 160,000 people, so just a little bit less than the accidents. There's a huge drop off, by the way. Heart disease, 600 plus K. Cancer, almost 600K. Accidents drop all the way down to 169,000. So clearly, like, cancer and heart disease are two of the most fatal things in our country. And also on this list is Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and stroke. All things that can be warded off by taking care of your body and exercising regularly. That's big. Like, that's huge. And I was reading into this. There is a difference depending on what age category you're in. So, like, the younger group, accidental injuries was more prevalent, like up until the time you're like 40 or something. And then from 40 to 65 was like cancer. And then from 65 and up was heart disease. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I thought 65 was fucking ancient. I was like, 65. And yet, that's intense. Contortion exercises. I don't even want to mess with that. But I was thinking that 65 years old was like skull and bones. Okay, you have no mental faculties left. Um, that is super not true. 65 is like a really reasonable age, and most people are living far beyond that. So you don't want to spend the last 30 years of your life dealing with a heart condition or battling cancer or having some other like terrible debilitating disease looming over you all the time. Why would you want to live? That would be me living for as long as I lived thus far with a terrible chronic condition. I'm already tired not having had cancer or heart disease. So I certainly don't want to do 30 years at the end of my life feeling like shit. So I think that's just a huge motivator in and of itself to just go for a walk. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You can do it for 20 minutes. We all have 20 minutes in our day that we do something stupid and waste time. You could be doing something that's actually going to benefit your body. And I think that it's just incredibly important, and we just kind of like lose sight of that because we're like, I don't really feel like it. I don't really want to, which is ridiculous. But anyway, there are a lot of things that can get in the way, school, your job, if you have kids, pets, family members, taking care of people, your mood. And if you get into a relationship, I've seen a lot of people who get into a relationship that they're really happy in and they gain like 25 pounds because they stop prioritizing exercise and they just go out to eat and go out to eat and go out to eat. And that's really, really normal. And that is true, Dr. Bonner. You're making a really good point, and something that's frustrating when you're on the other side of it is that it's really, really hard to get people motivated to exercise. And that's kind of what's so ironic about it, is that once you start exercising, you feel so much better on a daily basis. Like, I cannot stress that enough, how much different you feel. Am I sore? Yes. But in general, I feel better. I feel like I'm not showing it right now because I keep yawning, but I feel like I have a lot more energy. I feel like my mind is more awake when I'm awake, and then when I sleep, I feel like I sleep a lot better. I feel like I get less sick, I feel less depressed, and I feel way better about my body now that I'm exercising than I ever have. Like, I can see the difference in my muscles. I can see the difference in my weight. Every few weeks, I'm like, oh wow, that's new. Never had shoulders like that before. That's pretty cool. Or like, oh man, I can do 15 push-ups now. Like, that's pretty cool. When you're not doing anything, it's so easy to just feel like crap and to use that as motivation to not do anything. And that's kind of what's sad about it, is that it's like this cycle that just, you feel like, oh, I don't have the energy. But if you just did it anyway, that would start to change, which is sad. Hey, what up, Matt the Modest? Haven't seen you in a while. And yeah, same here. I mean, going on a bike ride, going on a walk every day, these things have been game changing for me. Like, they're so good for your mental health as well as your physical health. It really, really, really makes a difference. I've had this friend that I've been friends with for, God, I don't know, like over 15 years now, around 15 years, maybe around 15 years going on. And he and we've been pretty close for the whole time. And he was somebody who I met on World of Warcraft. He lives in Canada, and so we've obviously never met or anything like that, but we've been kind of like bros for a really long time. We did arenas together, we raided together, and we've kept in touch this whole time. And he and I were just talking the other day, and when I first met him and we were young, he was pretty physically active. And then over time, he ended up, I don't know what happened, but he put on a bunch of weight. And he just wasn't feeling as good about himself, or, you know, I think he developed prediabetes. And I mean, I remember him telling me that. I just don't know if it ever became full-blown diabetes. And when I was talking to him about exercising the other day, he was like, how you been doing with that? And I was like, oh, you know, I'm doing great and blah, blah, blah. And I said, how are you doing? And, you know, he said to me, like, it's really hard for me to do cardio. And I just wanted to be like, it's hard for everyone to do cardio. Like, that's the thing that really just drives me insane when I talk to people. I'm like, I know. Like, I know. It sucks to do cardio no matter who you are. That's not going to change when you get skinny. That's not going to change if you get a lot of muscle. No matter how much your body changes, it sucks to do cardio. It's hard. Like, that's the whole point. I mean, it's very, very frustrating to talk to people who just want to make an excuse for why they're not going to do the thing. If there's one thing that I can always pride myself on, it's that when I was being fat and lazy, I knew it. And I was like, I am choosing not to do these things. I never made myself an excuse as to why I wasn't doing it. I was just like, I'm just not doing it. Like, I just don't fucking want to. And I think that that's much more respectable than just being like, oh, well, you know, this one time I went running and it really sucked, so I'm never going to do it again. Like, okay, then you're just never going to change. And I agree with you in the sense that, and that's okay, Matt. I have a hate-love relationship with cardio. I hate doing it. It sucks, but I love how it makes me feel afterwards. Like, the sense of accomplishment is just everything to me. Like, it's not even about the endorphins or the runner's high or whatever other stuff people talk about. For me, it's literally just that I did it. And feeling my body having worked that hard, I know that I made a difference in myself. I know that if I later on eat a cookie that I shouldn't have, that it's not going to be as detrimental if I just sat around all day. And it also makes me want to make better choices with what I'm eating. Once you start feeling better like that and you're like, man, I put in so much work into that cardio, I don't want to eat a cookie because it's going to take away from all the work that I put in. And your body actually starts craving like healthy foods. You're like, man, I need nourishment. I want a good smoothie. I want a good salad. I want, you know, protein that's good for me. I want chicken. I don't want a cheeseburger. It really does change everything about how you feel about yourself and therefore what you consume and your self-esteem, etc. It's a huge, huge, huge change for like 30 minutes of work a day or an hour of work a day, whatever you choose to put in. Another thing that's really important when it comes to exercise is consistency. This is where I have failed in the past, but where I'm actually feeling really good now is making sure that I stay consistent with my exercising. It is super easy once you take a day off or a few days off to be like, man, it feels good not to do anything. In time, though, you will end up feeling like shit again, but it is difficult. Let's say you have to go out of town or something like that, and you're like, oh man, my regular routine isn't here anymore. I don't have my trail to run on, or I don't have my weights to lift. I can't go to the gym. It's so important that you still do something. Even if you're just doing sit-ups and push-ups and jumping jacks in your hotel room or whatever, it's critical that you keep doing something every single day. Don't take days off at all. You can have a day where all you do is take a really, really light walk, but still do something. Because the second that you let yourself slip and you don't do anything, it's so much harder to recover. It's not even funny. Like, you're essentially signing yourself up to fail at that point when you start taking days off like that. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend don't do that. Be consistent. Do something active every single day, even if it's an easy something. It's better than sitting around and doing nothing, and you'll feel a shitload better, and you'll have much better success rate in the long run. The next two things are just like other little disclaimers. For one, as we talked about in, I think, our last stream, don't believe everything you see on the internet. A lot of the pictures out there can be attainable, but at the same time, these people aren't going to post pictures that don't have like the perfect lighting and that weren't taken right when they like pumped up for the picture. And a lot of them are photoshopped in some way or another. Like, it's possible to get a great body if that's what you want. It's possible to get bigger biceps if that's what you want. Whatever your goals are, they're attainable to whatever point. But it's really important not to just like see something on the internet and be like, oh man, discouraged. I'm never going to look that way. Why don't I look that way? Whatever. They are playing a game to make themselves look great. And yeah, I know sometimes, Vince, after I like work out, I really do want something like just terrible, but most of the time I want something healthy. And don't worry about it. It was good to see you, and yeah, we'll catch up soon. I hope you sleep well. The next thing would be also to, no problem, would be to set realistic goals. This is also incredibly important. A lot of the times people think that they're going to make these huge strides in a short period of time, like I did, or they just set goals for themselves. That don't make any sense, or aren't founded in any logic or fact, or they're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to lose 25 pounds in a month. No, you're not. Like, do the research and actually figure out what is attainable and what is on pace with reality, and then set your goals. Don't just say like, oh, I'm gonna, do 25 pull-ups, when you've never done one. That's just not realistic. Things take time. I know I need a yawn counter, right? Jesus, I'm so sorry. I feel so like trashy yawning a bunch, but I cannot help it for whatever reason. Okay, so next I wanted to talk about some actual types of exercise and what's happening, because as I mentioned way at the beginning, understanding what's going on and what people are talking about and what your body is doing is important, I think, to your success. So first I wanted to talk about something called calisthenics. This is a Greek-based term. Kalos means beauty, and stanos means strength. So it's kind of like beauty and strength, calisthenics. And essentially all this means is that you're doing bodyweight exercises. You're doing things that you could do without a gym. And they're incredibly effective. You can Google this and see men and women with calisthenically made bodies, and they look insane. But if you don't want to Google it, you can also just use your imagination and think about what gymnasts look like. Because most of the time, gymnasts are not lifting weight. They get all of that muscle definition and tone purely from things that they're doing with their own body. So it's highly possible to not have a gym and still get yourself ripped arms, a crazy washboard ab situation, quads, like whatever you want, you can get it through calisthenics without any money and without ever actually leaving your house if you don't want to. Some of the more common things that people do that are like impressive with calisthenics are, if you've ever seen anyone who does a pull-up but then they pull like their whole body above the bar, that's called a muscle up. and it's a calisthenic move. It's a lot harder than just doing a pull-up. Also, those people who are like, holding on to something and their whole body is parallel with the ground, that is a calisthenic move. They worked up to that, being able to do really good like handstands or walking on your hands or whatever, that all that kind of stuff. Some more basic moves are like doing push-ups, which sometimes they call press-ups, doing dips, doing squats, lunges. These are all calisthenic exercises that can get you crazy muscle mass and definition if you don't ever want to go to the gym. A lot of times you do have to work your way up with these things, which is also like an added benefit of calisthenics, because you can very, very easily and markedly see where you were versus where you are. And that is incredibly motivating with any kind of exercise. One of the most important things about exercising is that you are very selfish about it. You need to be competing against yourself, comparing yourself to yourself, and thinking only about yourself. It's one of the few things in life that it's really good to just be incredibly self-centered. It helps you be better without being unhealthy. So I think calisthenics are really cool and great. I think they're a great way to train your body. They're a great way to change the shape of your body without making yourself feel really vulnerable, because you really don't have to leave the house if you don't want to. You can add weight if you did want to, but you're still doing like a natural movement. So maybe you're doing like dips, which are good for your triceps, but you have to hold up your whole body weight. You can add ankle weights, or some people like strap weights around their waist and let them hang. If you feel like you've reached your peak with those exercises, you can add weight, but you still have to be doing a natural movement, if that makes sense. Doing calisthenics also helps with your posture, your overall body composition, and your level of strength. So it's not just I'm going to look nice. It also helps. It's a well-rounded sort of thing. Again, though, just because you're doing these bodyweight movements doesn't mean that you're going to be like a good runner. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to compete with someone who can sprint. You still do want to like shake it up and do other things, but in terms of like your weightlifting, you could technically just do bodyweight exercises if you wanted to. A lot of the times the most beginning exercise in calisthenics is a push-up, and I actually read that when people do push-ups from their knees, the girly push-ups, this is actually not targeting the same muscles that you do for a normal push-up. So even though you can think that you're working your way up to a push-up, you might be helping, but you're not doing the same move. So a lot of the times what people suggest is doing an incline push-up. You can actually start by doing it against the wall and eventually lower to like your couch or to like a step. Maybe you have steps outside of your house or something. Those are all ways to advance towards a full-on push-up. Or you can just get stronger over time and keep trying, but it's definitely more difficult that way. Once you can do X amount of push-ups, they say, okay, move on to the next thing. And that's kind of how you progress with calisthenics. They might have you move to dips next, which are concentrating on a completely different part of your, push-ups are mainly like your chest and some of your biceps, and dips are mainly like your triceps. So you're going to be advancing to kind of a different muscle group at that point. You also might add squats, which are your butt and legs, sometimes quads a little bit too. You might be doing lunges, which are definitely quads, planks, which are going to get your shoulders, your arms, your abs. It's kind of a full body exercise. And also rows, which will pretty much do upper body, and you can do a little core with that too. The legs, the butt really, but the butt and the legs are like your biggest muscle groups in your body. So the more that you recruit those muscles, aka use them during your workout, the more muscle you're going to be building, the more calories you're going to be burning, the more sore you're going to be. But that's a really good way to progress yourself faster. It's really important not to neglect the legs and the butt, and guys really like to neglect the legs and the butt. Why is that? Because guys are really good with upper body strength. Men have natural ability to be stronger in their upper body, leagues stronger than women. Even if they look really skinny, they can often outpace a woman who has been exercising and lifting for quite some time. On the other hand, women have a stronger base, so usually they can build their legs faster and actually compete with, if not beat, men who are also trying to achieve the same thing. But yeah, glute hype is very important to work out your butt and your legs for a well-rounded fitness. Okay, anyway, next we're going to talk a little bit about muscle fibers so that we can talk about what's actually happening when you're doing exercises. Sorry, my throat is really dry. Okay, so muscle fibers are essentially the cells of your muscles. They're like the most basic part of your muscles, and they have two different kind of things that rate them. There's 3 types of muscle fibers, and each of them is judged by 2 different things. One is their ability to contract and relax. How fast do they do that, essentially? And the second one is their metabolic properties. So when we're talking about how fast they contract and relax, this is, like I said, it's about the speed at which they do that and how much force that speed can create. So we have what are called slow twitch muscle fibers and fast twitch muscle fibers, and that's going to be the speed. The metabolic properties of muscle fibers are all about what we were talking about earlier, the aerobic and the anaerobic. So it depends on which kind of pathway it's using in order to get its energy, essentially. Not that anyone cares, but the more mitochondria that your muscle has, that's going to be an aerobic. The less mitochondria is going to be anaerobic. Yeah. So the more mitochondria is aerobic, that's going to use oxygen. Less mitochondria anaerobic, that's going to use your fat buildup, essentially. The anaerobic ones are also the ones that produce lactic acid. Essentially, think of it as like your body's eating that fuel, and the lactic acid is the waste of that situation. So you might have heard people say like, oh, I have sore muscles, and it's lactic acid buildup. It's just essentially what's the product of working out your muscles. So the type 1 fibers are slow twitch, and they have a good capacity for oxidative metabolism. So these are your aerobic muscle types, is the type 1 muscle fiber. Type 2A fibers, I don't know why they didn't do 1, 2, 3. They did 1, 2A, and 2B. But anyway, type 2A fibers are fast twitch, and they can use both types of metabolism. So you do have some muscles that can be worked aerobically and anaerobically. Then you have some muscle fibers that can only be aerobic and some that can only be anaerobic. So 2A are the ones that can do both. And the 2B fibers are fast twitch as well. Jesus. We need to make like a drinking game off of the recording of this stream. Every time I yawn, everyone take a shot, and we'll all be really, really plastered. Okay, type 2B fibers are also fast twitch, but they're the anaerobic ones. So A is slow aerobic, B is fast anaerobic and aerobic, and 2B is slow anaerobic. Yeah. Okay. Your muscles, most of your muscles contain all three types at the same time. So they obviously, depending on the way that you're working your muscle, is going to influence how you are positively affecting it with your exercise. The percentage of, they're not all like equal percent. It's not like every single muscle in your body has 33% of each type of muscle fiber. It varies depending on what that muscle's point is. Like, what's the purpose of that muscle is going to help you understand. It's going to depict, I should say, decide the composition of that muscle's muscle fibers. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe that's the next thing I should like make a stream about. Why do we yawn during streams? Oh man. Okay. Muscle fibers create an electrical current, and they output an electrical charge, which is pretty cool. And there's a lot of science to that I probably wouldn't understand enough to explain. But they can also be externally stimulated. Usually it's something that's happening within you, but it can also happen from the outside in. So if you've ever I feel like for some reason we all have this memory, even though I don't know where it comes from. But if you've ever seen they shock a dead frog's leg and it goes whop, and extends at the knee. So gross. But I don't know why I can picture that perfectly, but I can. That is an electrical current stimulating a muscle twitch. I actually don't know if this was the same thing, but when I was in physical therapy for my back, I have a winged scapula, which essentially means that the tissue is not holding my chicken wing down to my back. I went to physical therapy because it was killing me, and sometimes at the end they would put these electrodes on my back and turn on this machine that would it was the weirdest sensation, but it would make my muscles clench up and then release. I don't really like that feeling, but I think that's kind of the same thing, is that they're using a really, really light electrical current to force the muscles to contract. So yeah, you are an electricity machine. As you are lifting weights, you tear your muscle fibers on a very, very small microscopic level. Yeah, I don't think those ab shocker belts work, but I remember seeing the infomercials for them when I was little. You wrap it around your waist and it's raw, and then you open it up and you have just a six pack. And I think that is what I mean, Sig. It was kind of on a little rolling thing. That sounds really familiar though, a TENS device, I don't know. And they put these round stickers that were hooked up to these wires. I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but I think that was it. It was a very, very strange sensation. I don't know that I would want to do it again. I much more preferred when they let me lay on a heat pack or a cooling pack. I think they had mine turned up too high, so I would just get really tense and I would leave okay, thanks, bye. I didn't like it. Anyway, as you're lifting weights, you're tearing your muscles on a very microscopic level, and also the connective tissues. And this is what causes you to be sore after you work out. So right now I feel really sore in my back. I feel sore in my legs as well. So I know that the exercises that I did over the last couple of days have been really, really targeting that. And yesterday my chest was really, really sore, right down here, because I was doing the perfect push-up as it was a part of some workout video I was doing. And they're very, very painful. But yeah, so you're ripping those muscle fibers. And the reason why this is good is because you can kind of influence how they grow back by eating protein, carbs, and fats, like after you work out, you can help your muscles grow back at an accelerated rate, but naturally they're going to grow back stronger and rebuild bigger than they were before. So that's kind of like the process of what's going on when you're actually lifting weights. And the soreness that this causes kind of varies for everyone. For me, I usually get sore the very next day. Some people I know get sore 2 days later from what they did 2 days ago. And this is a lot of the reason why people have rotating days in their weightlifting. Is they'll have like an arm day on Monday, and then they'll do like back and abs on Wednesday, and then on Friday they'll do legs. The reason for that is so that they're not overlapping, tearing those muscles, and that allows each set to heal, because it does take about a week for your muscles to actually heal. So they don't recommend doing these anaerobic exercises, doing these weightlifting things like often. Even though it feels really good, it's not something that you should do every day. Yeah, see, Dr. Bonham's a day twoer. I'm not a day twoer. My next day is like hell, and then by day 2, I'm like starting to feel better. But everyone's different, so it doesn't mean that one person's better or worse than the other. It's just bodies heal differently, and the way that we feel the muscle soreness is different. There's also like DOMS, I forget what that is, like delayed onset muscle something or another, which sometimes people get, that is perfectly normal and means that you're actually on a good track with whatever weightlifting you're doing. But that again is different. Shit. I think this is yawn 37. Okay. Y'all, I'm dying. Okay. So when you rebuild muscles, they become, I know, I really am, I guess. They become larger, they become stronger. I've been having these crazy ass dreams. I don't need to be off on a tangent right now, but Jesus, I've been having so many crazy dreams, and it's just like keeping me up all the time. Last night, I was in a Trader Joe's that was incredibly hard to like navigate, and I was looking for dog treats for my dog. And then I ran into this like boy that I dated when I was a freshman in high school that I haven't even thought about in like 800 years. And there was like Halloween celebration going on. I don't fucking know, dude, but I just keep waking up so tired. I'm really over it. I need to stop having these crazy dreams. Okay, God. Okay. So your muscles become larger, stronger, and more capable. When you start off, you have what are called novice gains. You usually gain about 2 to 3 pounds of muscle per month when you're consistently like weightlifting. As you continue, though, that number goes down. So by the time that you're doing it really, really regularly for an extended period of time, you might only gain like a half a pound of muscle per month, if that. The reason why some of this is super important, if I haven't stressed this enough, okay, when we turn 30, which is scarily coming up soon for me, we begin to lose anywhere from 3 to 8% of our muscle mass every year. Which I don't like. I don't know how you feel about that, but I don't like that at all. 30 seems to be like the turning point for a lot. Your hair, skin, body are all supposed to start deteriorating once you turn 30. So it's super important, whether you're 35 or 29 or 47, to exercise, because it will drastically change and improve these symptoms from happening. Yeah, streamyonitis. I know, it's scary. Starting to exercise is helpful, and you can actually reverse some of that to a certain point. When we get older, though, obviously you can tell that a lot of old people look very frail, And that's because they have not kept up doing anything to increase their muscle mass, so it just kind of withers away, and then it becomes a lot harder to build it back. So it's important to, start as early as you can, and whenever you start, just stay consistent, and that will help bring you into your later years with a more capable body. You've probably seen someone who's old who just kind of like shuffles around and like has a walker, and they can only walk like this. And there are also old people who like just can't do this. They literally can't lift their arms above their head. All that kind of stuff can be improved, and you can have the exact same flexibility and vitality when you're older that you do when you're younger if you keep at it. So the more that you lift weights, the more that you'll keep that muscle mass for longer. As I already mentioned, you can ward off cancer as well. And another thing that's really excellent benefit is for your mental cognition. So I've been kind of focusing a lot on the body and the physical aspects, but there are a lot of really good mental aspects as well. Not just keeping you alert and having better memory, but Alzheimer's is also something that's fucking terrifying and is known to be decreased risk if you consistently exercise. I don't know how many of you have seen Alzheimer's in action, or dementia for that matter, but it's really sad. It's really scary, and it's not a fun thing to live through. These people have memories that are just completely messed up, and sometimes they don't know who they are, and then all of a sudden they'll like remember, and they'll be like, holy shit, what's happening? And then they slip back out of it again, and it's just horrible, and I wouldn't want that for like anyone. So that's another really great reason, if you don't want to end up having Alzheimer's or dementia and forgetting everything you know and love, freaking exercise. It's worth it. Okay. You can also help stem your depression and your anxiety, which I know that we all fucking need. Like I was saying earlier, it's really sad and frustrating when you know someone who's depressed who is not doing any exercise whatsoever. My best friend Jasmine at the moment I think she's still trying. I don't know. But unfortunately, she went through a lot. She had her first child and put on some weight with that. And then she had a second child and had a really hard time, conceiving and having a healthy pregnancy. So she was depressed from that. She put on a lot more weight when she became pregnant with her daughter. And since then, she puts herself down a lot. She's very, very busy, so I don't blame her in a sense, but I also just like I wish that I could be there to help her just do a little bit of something every day, because I really sincerely believe, I know that would help her depression and anxiety a lot. When we feel bad about our bodies, but also just when we're not treating them well, it's a lot easier for our brains to be out of control, and it's a lot easier for our emotions to be out of control. I know you guys might remember me going on a lot bit of a rant 2 streams ago, talking about how like pharmaceutical companies and food manufacturers run all of this and try to keep us addicted to foods and create foods that are not good for us. And I still believe that all of that is very true, and they don't give a shit about how you feel. Every time that you eat something delicious that's not nutritious, those people don't care that they're making you depressed, or that they're giving you anxiety, or that they're keeping you from succeeding at your goals or your dream body or your strength desires for yourself, whatever it is. What we ingest is just as important as how we, it's okay, as how we treat ourselves with exercise. The reason why I chose the things that I chose this month is because they all really go hand in hand together. The way that you see your body image, the way that you eat, whether you eat healthily, intuitively, or with a disordered eating pattern, the way that you exercise or don't exercise, all of these things together are the heart and soul of our health in general. And you know, these are wellness streams. I couldn't talk about wellness without addressing these things. Like, they are so critical, and people ignore them because they just don't want to put in the effort, or because, you know, that piece of pizza just tastes better than the banana or whatever. And like, I get it, but it's also very helpful to realize that, like, we're being played in a sense. Like, those things don't have your back. Those companies don't have your back. None of this is for your benefit. It's all for the benefit of people who don't give a shit whether you live or die, or how good your quality of life is, or whether you have a dime to your name or whatever. Like, they just don't care. And as I was mentioning in a recent ASMR video that I did, like, you are the one who has to stick up for you and make those decisions for yourself, and sit there and say, like, well, this is what I want for me. I want to be happy. I want to be in shape. I want to be able to do a push-up. Whatever it is for yourself, you're the only one who's really ever going to be able to be in control of that, to motivate that, to make all of the decisions that will lead towards that or not. And I, for one, at the end of my life, don't want to be so out of commission and then just looking at it like, man, I did this to myself. That to me is like the worst form of being old that I could be. I want to be like, just living another day. And it takes a lot of effort, but it's also worth it. And the sad part is that we can't really see that it's worth it until it's too late most of the time. And yeah, that's totally true. It is a lot too about last month and self-love, and this whole concept of feeling, like you say, guilty or not guilty. You know, are you choosing things that are beneficial for you and who you are and what you want to be, or are you choosing things that are just easy? The easy things are easy, but they don't pay off. And until you actually try to do the things that pay off, you really don't understand what you're missing until it's too late. I wish that I could just be everyone's workout buddy and either go for a walk or swim or take a bike ride or lift weights with whomever wanted to, because I just feel really strongly about these things at this point, and I think I will, hopefully, for the rest of my life. You know, it's just made such a difference for me already. My goal still is to be in the best shape that I've been by the time I turn 30, and I've been not eating as well lately as I should have, just because I've been really, really stressed. But again, that's something that I need to stop trying to eat for comfort, as we talked about in the last stream about eating. It's not going to solve my problems to eat shitty food. There are better ways to handle that, and managing your anxiety through exercise is also a part of that. Another thing that I found really interesting was that even if you are overweight, if you exercise the recommended amount, which is 150 minutes a week, which breaks down to like roughly 20 or 30 minutes a day, you are more likely, or your life expectancy is 4 years more than someone who doesn't exercise, no matter how skinny they are. So it's not just all about weight. It's about what you're doing with and for your body. There's also like an added social aspect. This is like a complete side note, but a good point, I guess, too, is you don't have to do this stuff alone. If you're looking for socialization, or maybe if you're just the kind of person who can't get motivated by yourself, maybe you like competition, maybe you like, I don't know, having a group, being a part of something. Maybe those things matter more to you than you actually know. Exercise is a great way to get an extra social layer in your life. One of the things that I really want to work myself up to doing is joining some sort of a bike riding group. There are people who love to do everything, and just like those people at the gym who want you to succeed, those who are passionate about whatever they're doing, they like having people come with them. They like having more people swim or bike or dance or whatever it is. Like, they enjoy having people around them that like doing the same thing that they like doing. And it's very, very easy to gain a social circle when it comes to exercise and physical fitness. You can join a dance class. You can join any kind of class, really. There are a shitload of different kinds of classes. And that's one way to be a little bit competitive as well, is to see how you're doing in comparison to the class. I feel like in a lot of different places, bigger cities than I have here, there are more options. Oh, down 38. Okay. There are more options, like this whole Soul Cycle thing, and I don't know, there's probably gymnastics classes. There's all kinds of different dance classes. We don't even have Zumba here, I don't think, but you can join an intramural sports league if you really have the confidence for that. If you don't have the confidence for that, though, there are still ways to have a social group or a competitive group that you can be a part of. And it really is just like all around enriching for your life. Even if it sounds really scary, go once. I mean, and if you don't like it, you don't have to ever go back. It's not a life commitment just because you're doing it one time. And you're totally right. I'm going to go like eat some shit that I shouldn't eat and negate everything else. And no, I'm just kidding. I actually did a lot today. I went on a bike ride, and then when I got back, I played with Cuddy, and then came inside and I did an arm workout video, and then I did an ab workout video, and I was just like, oh, I'm dying. But it feels good. I feel really good about myself, about what I can do, about my life. Do you guys have any questions or comments or want to share about your own exercise or weight loss or life journey at all? I know, I need to send more Cuddy pics. He got groomed recently and he just looks so freaking cute. He's got these stubby little paws. Looks stupid. I hope that any of that was hell yeah, go you. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Anything counts. That's the thing that I think people don't understand enough. Anything counts. Just go walk. March in place while you watch TV. Like, you don't have to do something crazy. Just start really small. Just get yourself moving a little bit. There are thousands of videos online. So many people want to be like fitness gurus or whatever. You can find every level. You can find so many fucking activities. If you love playing video games, get an athletic video game. They have like ones that you have to actually move your body for. Like, there's something for everyone. People are just lazy, and I get it, because I was in your group forever and I'm still lazy. That didn't actually change. I'm just forcing myself to do something that's good for me, and it feels really freaking good. And that's exactly right. You do a little bit and you feel better with every little bit you do, and then before you know it, you're just like forcing yourself to do a little more because you're excited to do a little more. You want to see what you can do. You want to see, like, okay, can I run this instead of walking it? You know, can I do an extra push-up? And that's where like the excitement and the fun of exercising comes in. And then you can tell somebody, you can tell me, you can be like, shit, I did, you know, whatever today. And I'll be like, hell yeah. Because it's really good. It's cool. And that's something. I mean, walking for Pokemon Go is fine too. Like, you're still out and walking. And yeah, I used to actually do things like that. Dr. Bonham, I have some like weights, and every time we would be like on a break, or for a while, my thing was every time I got up from my computer chair, I had to do like 3 rounds of 3 different reps. And that was actually really effective. I've never heard of this Beat Saber. Is it active? Oh my god, I don't want to yawn again. Okay, you didn't see it, so it doesn't count. What is wrong with me? Actually, I will tell you what I think is wrong with me. I didn't take my medicine today. I forgot. And it's like an extended release medicine that gives me energy as just like a side effect. So I think not taking a medication that I've been taking every day for like over a month, it just has me like an empty juice box. Okay, Rock Band or Guitar Hero, but VR and more intricate. Okay, that would be pretty dope. I forgot. Man, I can't believe I forgot. I usually do the same like routine every day so I don't forget, but today I switched it up. Is it hard? I played a lot. I've never played really Rock Band, but I played a shitload of Guitar Hero. And I could only play like 2 songs on Expert, and it was Killer Queen by Queen and what was it? Don't Stop Believing by Journey or something like that. That was a fun game. That little cop panda is so cute. Okay, I don't need to like keep you guys here. I'm sorry. I didn't know if anyone else had anything exercise related to say. But I appreciate you guys being here and putting up with my excessive yawning. I'm so embarrassed and sorry about that. I honestly feel so trashy, but all I can do is laugh because I can't help it. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your night. I will be around in a little bit probably, and it's totally fine. Don't even worry about it. I just appreciate you guys being here at all. And I hope that this was a little bit helpful, a little bit interesting. Maybe not. Maybe everyone knew all of this shit and I'm just dumb, but I think it's cool stuff. I think it's motivating. And yeah, I'm going to start working on whatever next month's stream schedule is going to be. I had a couple ideas, I think, requests for videos. If anyone else, or streams, if anyone else has any content that they are interested in hearing some information about, definitely let me know sooner than later, because I'm going to try to finalize that stream schedule within the next couple of days. Can you believe it that a week from today is April 2nd? That just makes me want to die. Thanks for coming. Sorry, guys. Okay. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night. Oh, Lord.